sales inhibitor I would like to discuss is where we choose as sales professionals not to spend time or try and contact clients or prospects because of historic reasons. So this is one of the most common. So historic reasons, what I'm getting at here is that these are reasons that we have heard the client, for instance, has been quite difficult historically to work with. They've been abrupt with us. We have worked with them, but it hasn't gone very well. We have our own kind of views about that client. We've heard things about them in the industry that we don't like or that we formed our own opinion. And we're doing this every day. And so when you get to that ring-fenced business development time and you really needing to really bring some more revenue in for the business and get some new clients on board, we take a look at the list of individuals on our CRM. And what we do is we go down the list and we will select the people, or we will opt out those people which historically haven't been either easy to deal with or given us business. And what we're doing then and there, and the story we're telling ourselves about those individuals, inhibits us to call them and actually open the deal up, the opportunity up. We will say things like, the last time I spoke to them, they were abrupt and rude and made it very clear that they didn't want my product or service. Or when we were dealing with this client 3 years ago and they were very tricky, the story we tell ourselves is that you don't really want to re-engage with that client necessarily, or you're not in the mood to, you don't have the energy to. Another common one is where the client only responds to you via email and it's very difficult to build a true relationship with the client. I'm not suggesting that you go back without any filter to clients that perhaps haven't worked out very well or that you just don't have that chemistry with. I'm not suggesting that, but what I am suggesting is that you do try and approach this more with an evolved sales mind. For instance, if you were to say to yourself, the last time I dealt with this client, they didn't want my product, they were abrupt and they made it quite clear that they wouldn't need my product ever in the future, which I always find very interesting when clients, prospects say that, I'll never need your product. And it's because, of course, they're busy and they don't have the time to process. Approaching this with a sales mind would actually say that actually the client didn't need your product at that same time, but stopping you contacting them a second and third time because they were abrupt with you on the first time or they said something that didn't quite align to where you were at the time isn't a reason not to still engage with them. And what about those clients that 3 years ago you dealt with and they're a pain in the bum and that you just don't want to deal with it, you don't want that type of business? But the reality is that client may still be in your ideal client persona. They could have had some changes there. And the reality is you need the business. So you absolutely do call them and contact them again. The difference now, though, is that you have that information and you have that experience from 3 years ago. So you're not going to approach the relationship the same. You're going to call them with an open mind and an open heart. You are going to speak to them about your product and service and what has changed in the time that you haven't been working with them. However, when it comes to crunch point and when it comes to the point where you're going to do the deal, you don't then make the same mistakes. You will then take some time to set out some boundaries and some a code and agreement between the two organisations and the two humans to actually work out what last time didn't work. It's also really important to ask them to reflect on what didn't work from their side last time you worked together as well. This is all about learning, and approaching this with an evolved sales mind means that you approach it with curiosity and a want and a desire to learn and develop, as opposed to barriers and walls and things like that. You know, having barriers and when you put in walls up with clients, you know, you're basically going into a meeting and saying, I don't want your business, if you're going to go at it with that type of mind frame. So say, for instance, the client doesn't really want too much to do with you face to face, or perhaps they're being quite tricky over email. It's not about just ditching that client or prospect and saying, oh, too hard. It's actually about having an adult conversation with them and saying, look, if you really want me to assist you, I need you to carve out time face to face, and these are the reasons. If they don't do that and they still don't do that, then absolutely, perhaps they're not going to be the right type of client for you. But until you can really outline that to them up front and face to face, or up front, and explain what your boundaries are and what you need to do your job, then you really can't categorize that client into being difficult. They're just busy and they're needing to prioritize their face-to-face time.